Hey everyone, this is Zypher here. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. So we are back with another patch notes update video. I haven't done one of these apparently in 4 months, which is insane. I've really been slacking on those, so apologies. In today's video, we're going to be going over all of the changes that we got in the 9.5.0 update in Dead by Daylight, plus 9.5.1 and 9.5.2, which were primarily bug fixes. So the only content changes we really got with those, besides maybe the Blood Moon event, were for the Trickster. I was going to stitch these on at the end of the video so that there would be a designated area for those that are looking for it, if that's all you're interested in. Instead, I will be addressing those throughout as I'm covering the 9.5.0 changes in the Trickster live update portion of this video. So there is a lot to go through today, guys, so just bear with me. This is probably going to be quite a long one, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. So we're going to start off with the PTB To Live changes, as we always do. So we actually got 2 changes to the brand new perks that we got for Quantayung for a place for us, which is his perk where when healing, you and the survivor gain elusive, and then it applies a longer elusive duration to the obsession. They've actually changed this now, so when you finish healing the obsession, you now both gain elusive for the duration. I'm so happy they did this. This was one of the small gripes I had with the perk during the PTB. And then for 5 moves ahead, they've also done 2 changes for this perk. So they've increased the cooldown by 10 seconds for each perk tier. So this used to be 30, 25, or 20 seconds. Now it's 40, 35, or 30 seconds. So I can kind of see why they did this, because obviously this is a very good perk. I mean, it's basically just a better version of Windows of Opportunity. I don't really see a point in running Windows anymore when you can basically get the same effect from this at a smaller radius, of course. You're not seeing as many parts in Windows, but you're getting the same effect nonetheless. And I feel like you only really need to know where windows and parts are within your general vicinity. And with this, you obviously do get the faster pallet drop speed, which they have changed as well, by the way, guys. They've clarified the text description of the pallet dropping speed effect. So now, instead of it saying that you drop pallets 50% faster, it now says that after you drop a pallet, you start moving 50% earlier. Moving on to the Trickster, obviously, we have an array of changes to get to when we get to the actual live changes. So stay with me here, guys, okay? They've increased the base throw state movement speed to 3.86 meters per second, which was 3.68 meters per second in the PTB. Now, I think they reverted this basically because it used to be 3.86 in the past. So I can see why they've done this, because a lot of people have been giving them shit for the fact that they made Trickster so slow. I personally didn't really have an issue with it, considering how strong his blades are and how quickly it takes for him to actually rank up and, down people and stuff. I'm fine with the reduced movement speed, but I know a lot of other people weren't happy with this. So they have gone back on this now, which is fair enough, I guess. They've decreased to after 5 consecutive blade throws now that the throw state movement speed is decreased to 3.53 meters per second, which was 8 blades before. And then this would happen again at 16 blades. Now they've decreased it to after 10 consecutive blade throws that the throw state movement speed is decreased to 3.16 meters per second. What it seems like they've done is they've made his overall movement speed when throwing the blades better again, but they've also made it quicker for your speed to be reduced with the blades. So, I don't know, I guess we'll have to see how that is in a game. I've not actually tested out any of these changes yet, by the way. I should have probably specified that at the start, so I don't really have too many thoughts just yet. I can only really go off of my opinions roughly from the PTB. They've also updated the blade throw rates per blade thrown, so they've decreased it to after 5 consecutive blades. Again, this applies here as well, like with the other aspect of the power, so they've decreased it to after 5 consecutive blade throws that the throw rate is at the 50% point in the curve. But yeah, essentially this used to be 8 blades as well, and they've decreased to after 10 consecutive blade throws that the throw rate is at the 100% point in the curve, which was 16 before as well. So it seems like the movement speed is decreased quicker now when throwing blades, but you also do start to throw them faster now. They've increased the laceration stack decay to 4.4 seconds, which was 3. Now, this used to be 2 in the past, so they upped it by a second. Now they've upped it by 1. 1.4 seconds, which is nice. Now, I know a lot of people were mad about the laceration time because, again, with a lot of people having issues with the overall like movement speed being decreased, the fact that the blade count is decreased, there was also a lot of people who took issue to the fact that the decay rate is faster, because that meant that if the survivor just kept a distance from you and kept breaking line of sight, it would be very hard for you to actually catch up to them and keep the pressure on, and the laceration would just decay really quick. So I did kind of notice this when playing myself as the Trickster, but I didn't really have too much of an issue with it because, again, at like medium to short range, he's very, very powerful. But yeah, they've extended that, which is nice. They've increased the main event movement speed to 3.92 meters per second, which was 3.86 meters per second, I think, in the past, not in the PTB, because they never actually specified a main event movement speed change in the PTB. So this is just the old one that they have now upped. So he's even quicker now than in the past when using main event. So that's kind of crazy, I guess. They've also increased the main event duration to 10 seconds, which was 8 seconds in the PTB. And before the PTB, this was 6 seconds. So they've upped it by 2 and then upped it by 2 again. Yeah, that's a very long time to have main event. And I don't know how this will apply for the add-ons. I guess they'll have to now reduce the add-ons a bit that, you know, extend your main event duration. But there we go. So seems to be mostly buffs there. I don't know how I feel about that, guys. I'm very, very neutral on the changes. I feel like he's very annoying to go up against, and to play as, it varies person to person, but I didn't really have too much of an issue with it. But I could see why people didn't like the general slowness of the killer. Moving on to his add-ons. For the Inferno Wires, it decreases the Showstopper's cooldown after main event by 44%, which was 10% in the PTB. That's an insane buff right there. Oh my god. For G-Wound's Autograph, it increases the duration of main event by 44%, which was 33% in the PTB, even despite increasing the main event in the base kit. That's insane. So apparently 44% equates to 4.4 seconds. So with this add-on, you'll be able to get 14.4 seconds of main event. Wow. I can probably see this being a very popular add-on then for that reason. For the Tequila Moonrock, it increases the throw speed by 15% for 10 seconds after gaining a star rank, which was 10% for 8 seconds. So again, another buff there. For the Bloody Boa, it decreases the speed at which laceration decays by 25%, which was 10%. So even though, again, they've increased laceration stack decay time, they've also decreased the speed even more in the add-on department, which is kind of wild. For the on-target single, it increases the time before laceration starts decaying by 30%, which was 15, meaning it will take an extra 3.6 seconds now for the laceration meter to decay. And for the Edge of Revival album, the blade hits from more than 20 meters away deal 100% more laceration, which was 32 meters before. So yeah, even less range now is required for you to actually get a higher laceration amount on the survivors. As for the Trickster's add-on reworks, apparently the Caged Heart Shoes have been reworked. So in the PTB, this would increase your movement speed while in the throw state by 1%. So they've now reworked the add-on again. I don't think I've ever seen them rework add-ons twice back to back. That's kind of wild. Like usually they just rework them and that's it. And then they just modify the value of the thing that they've reworked. But it seems like they've done a rework to the rework, which is kind of funny. And they've done that for 4 of the add-ons here. So now for the Caged Heart Shoes, when you basic break pallets and breakable walls or damage generators, the next time you enter the throw state, it increases your movement speed while in the throw state by 5% for 10 seconds. Then for the Lucky Blade, in the PTB, on every 8th blade hit, an additional bonus would be assigned at random, so it would increase laceration by 100%, or you would gain 3% haste for 3 seconds, or you'd gain an additional style point. Now with this one, they haven't actually reworked the PTB rework of the add-on, but they did modify the top, I guess, additional bonus, which is that it now increases the throw speed by 8% for 8 seconds. Then for the Trick Blades, this add-on wasn't actually changed in the PTB, but it was disabled for some reason. So I guess they were considering doing this change in the PTB, but then they must have had an issue with getting it to work or something, so they just disabled it for the PTB. So prior to the PTB, this would cause blades to ricochet off the environment a total of 2 times. Now, the blades can ricochet off the environment once, which is kind of a shame. And on every 8th blade hit after a ricochet, an additional bonus is assigned at random, which is a new effect. So it can increase the laceration by 100%, which is what the Lucky Blade used to do for one of its additional bonuses. So it seems that they've just added that here instead. It can reveal the survivor auras within 12 meters for 4.4 seconds, which is kind of cool. Or you can gain an additional style point. So they have reduced the amount of times it can ricochet, but they have added like these extra little bonuses you can get, which is kind of nice. So for the cut through you single in the PTB, when reaching a new style rank, it would add a stackable 1% haste bonus, and then all stacks would last until the style rank decreased by any means. Now, when reaching A rank, survivors within 32 meters are revealed with Killer Instinct for 4.4 seconds. And then finally, for the iridescent photo, this used to increase the duration of the main event by 100%, and then when main event is activated, it would reveal your aura to all survivors and block all generators for 6 seconds. Now, it increases the duration of main event by 100%, which is the same, but also when main event is activated, you reveal your aura to all survivors auras are revealed, and it blocks all generators for 6 seconds. So they've updated the aura reveal effect to be symmetrical. I feel like that's nice. It just makes things fair. So if the survivors get to see your aura, you get to see theirs as well, whilst you also get the generator blockage value. So then for the first, or Vecna, the charge vine attack ready sounds playing slightly in advance for survivors has been reverted. So I know this is something that they did add in the PTB that maybe people had wanted, but I don't know how this affects the killer. Maybe this ruined the killer maybe in that regard, because it meant that the survivors could then calculate when you were going to place the vine attacks and, you know, dodge them more often, which made it maybe harder for Vecna to hit as many of them. So they've removed that now, which I liked. I like that the survivors have to kind of learn to avoid those. But then I can also see that for some people, they might have felt at the time that you're given to react was very small. And so I'm fine with them reverting this, but I'm sure there's other people who might be a little bit annoyed with this. Let me know what you guys think about that. I have to say, me personally playing against the first, I've had literally no issues with dodging his line attacks, but for some people, I don't know, maybe they just have a worse reaction time. But anyway, for the Ghoul, they've removed the automatic hit detection that occurs at the end of a Cocoon Leap vault. When a survivor attempts to vault back towards the killer can no longer automatically damage survivors. Then for Ghostface, they've added technical improvement on the killer's reveal system, and the survivors can now reveal Ghostface more accurately while he is within 18 meters of their location. Then for the Wraith's add-on, the Serpent Soot. While cloaked, you uncloak whenever you basic break pallets or breakable walls, explode or damage generators, which previously included generator damage events only. So I guess this has been updated to include pallet or wall breaks. And they've also added a bit more specifics around the generator damage, because generator damage in general was just, you know, like kicking it or whatever. So they've specified there now that with exploding a generator, that could occur with a gen damage perk, whilst damaging it is when you choose to go over and kick it. And they put a note at the bottom which says they've updated the add-on's behavior to be more consistent across all existing generator damage and generator explosion effects that can trigger while the Wraith is cloaked. Now, the thing that I really like about this add-on in particular is that when you're using Turn Back the Clock, you can click A to blow up a generator and it will immediately uncloak you, which I think is so nice. Like, that combination of that perk and this add-on is really good. Moving a bit further down to survivor perk updates. So for low profile, when all other survivors are downed or hooked for 70, 80 or 90 seconds, it says that they've updated the text in bold. You make no grunts of pain, you leave no pools of blood, and you leave no scratch marks. And it says, note, they've reverted all previous changes and enabled multiple triggers per trial. They've updated the text to more accurately convey the previous usage of last survivor standing in the perk's description. So this is included as a PTB to live change, but this perk wasn't actually changed in the PTB, so I guess this is just from before the PTB. They've decided to alter that there. Initially, when you read that, you would think that last survivor standing means that everyone's dead and you're the one person alive, but it means that you're the last person that hasn't been put on a hook or left slugged. So yeah, that's good that they've specified that, and the fact that you can get multiple uses out of this now is great. Then for feature updates with the new prestige menu and reward system, which we will obviously get to in the live changes, the Resident Evil prestige badges have now been added. That is great. I know a lot of people were, you know, questioning the devs for that, like, where the fuck are the badges for the killers and survivors? So I should insert here, guys, that they literally just ripped the character portraits from the menu list and put them as the badges, which is pretty damn lazy, to be honest. Fingers crossed they'll actually update take these at some point and design actual badges that are in the same art style as the other ones. I would assume they will do that at some point. To be honest, they need to do the same for a couple of the other badges as well, because some of them are literally just like legacy photos taken from their photo gallery or whatever from a few years ago. And the prestige badges for Vittorio Toscano, Nancy Wheeler, and Dustin Henderson have had an update. So I guess maybe they've improved the artwork or something, I'm not sure. And they fixed an issue where the incorrect prestige badges were displaying in the reward track of some survivors. So yeah, that is all we have for the PTB To Live changes. I say that's all we have, but that took me fucking ages to go through, so hopefully I'll try to cut that down as much as possible. But let's now finally get to the live changes now, guys. So again, there's a lot to go through. So firstly, to go over the massive Trickster rework, starting off, we'll just read a summary. So if you don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of all the information and the specifics, then the general summary is that now the Trickster gains style points by throwing blades, injuring survivors, and performing distinct gameplay actions back to back. The Trickster goes up in style ranks by earning style points. Each style rank improves the Trickster's blade throw rate and locker restocking speed. Main event can now only be activated once, reaching the highest style rank, which is the S rank, of course, and style points and style ranks are tracked via a new user interface element custom made for the Trickster. Now, to get into the specifics, so for his base kit, the Trickster's movement speed is decreased to 4.4 meters per second, which was 4.6. This is in line with the Huntress. I don't know if any other killers have this, but yeah, he is slower in his overall movement speed, which I know some people aren't going to like, and I know some people were taking issue with this even in the PTB, but I think this is great. I think that adds consistency across killers with a ranged attack. People want him to be fast like he was before, but with how quick it takes to get her down with the blades, the fact that the locker reloads are faster now and they increase with each rank, and if you're just decent at hitting your blades, the tiers go up very quickly. So I feel like just reducing his overall movement speed a little bit, I don't really take issue with this. I feel like that's a good thing. If he was just quick in all areas, it would be actually impossible to play against him. So the blade count was decreased to 36 from 44. They decreased the turn radius to 24 meters from 32. They decreased the time to enter the throw state to 0.3 seconds, which was 0.35. They decreased the time to exit the throw state to 1.15 seconds, which was 1.25 seconds. They've increased the time between blade throws to 0.33 seconds, which was 0.3 seconds. I think this is what I actually noticed when I was in the PTB. I wasn't sure if it was quicker or slower. Like, it feels like actually entering the throw state to actually pull the blades up is faster, but then actually chucking them feels a bit slower. Like, I wasn't sure if it was that they were locking on more to the survivor, but I guess that clears that up. They've decreased the base throw state movement speed to 3.86 meters per second, obviously, which is 3.68 meters per second in the PTB. After 5 consecutive blade throws, obviously, the throw state movement speed is decreased to 3.53 meters per second, and after 10 consecutive blade throws, the throw state movement speed is decreased to 3.16 meters per second. They've increased the blade throw rate, of course, like we mentioned before, per blade thrown, so that after 5 consecutive blade throws, the throw rate is increased by 50%, and then after 10 consecutive blade throws, the throw rate is increased by 100%. Then for laceration, the laceration now only is counted using whole numbers, which previously decayed into decimals, so it was very specific before. The laceration meter has been decreased to 6, which was 8. So this is a thing that I felt was very strong in the PTB, like just playing against him in general, is that now your meter on the side screen takes less to fill up, but unfortunately it does decay in whole blocks. It will literally blink and then the segments will go down fully. The laceration meter decay delay was decreased to 12 seconds from 15. So basically what this is referring to is the time before the survivor's meter starts to decay. This was then increased to 16 seconds in the 9.5.2 update, which is crazy, to be honest. Like, I can see why they did this, especially for bigger maps. Like, I think the new Trickster's Delusion map that came out, there's a lot of corners for the survivors to turn and break line of sight, and I think also finding them can be quite difficult as well. So for maps like that, I feel like this is a good change because it means that the meter doesn't go down as quick, and it means that you don't have to worry so much about keeping the pressure on. But at the same time, I also really do not like this because for smaller or more average medium-sized maps, this is really annoying to go up against now. From my few games that I've faced Tricksters and Minas, it's very obnoxious to say the least, because obviously at close to medium range, this is a very strong killer. Despite what everyone wants to say about him being nerfed and about him being really bad, this really definitely makes it hard now to actually get rid of the laceration on your meter. And since looping is already hard enough against this character, there's so much running back and forth, ducking, dodging. To have this on top of that, 16 seconds in a loop is a very long time. It's going to be pretty much impossible for you to get rid of this now, so it almost guarantees that the killer will get you with the blades. They've increased the laceration stack decay time to 4.4 seconds, which was 3 seconds. This used to be 2 in the past, like I say. Now, I believe what this means is that once the decay delay time has ran out, it will take 4.4 seconds for each stack to disappear. So when it blinks, it will now take 1.4 seconds longer. The laceration visual feedback has been updated, so it's now displayed on the survivor directly for both survivors and killer. So there's basically this sort of pink glowy effect that comes off the survivor, which they can see and you can see. And they've removed the laceration cuts from the survivor's user interface. Then for style points, the Trickster performing combo actions generates style points. A combo action is triggered when 2 back-to-back gameplay actions are distinct, and the following actions generate 1 style point. So hitting a survivor with a blade, specifically the first hit only, injuring a survivor from laceration or a basic attack, hooking a survivor, basic breaking a downed pallet, or basic breaking a breakable wall. We will get into the whole basic breaking thing a bit further on in the video, obviously, and damaging a generator or snuffing a boon totem. All of these things help up your style rank faster, which is nice. If it was just tied to the blade hits, I feel like that would take a long time to rank up. So of course, having these other actions throughout the game contribute to that system, I think is pretty nice. The following actions generate 2 style points. So hitting a survivor with 4 blades from at least 4 meters away without missing or exiting the throw state. So you just have to hit these back to back. Also, hitting a survivor with a blade from more than 16 meters away gives you 2 style points, and interrupting a survivor. So I guess that could be stopping them from doing a gen, cleansing a tome, or opening a chest or something like that. It will give you more style points for that. And the following actions generate 3 style points, and there's only one, and that's if you hit a survivor with a blade through small gaps, which is something I'm very bad at. With style ranks, there are 6 style ranks which go from E all the way up to S rank. These style ranks each have their respective bonus, maximum throw state, and locker restocking speed modifiers, and there are higher bonuses at higher ranks. So the higher style ranks require more style points to reach, and the higher style ranks feature progressively shorter combo timers, and these ranks regress to previous in order if the combo timer ever lapses. Earning style points refreshes the current style ranks combo timer, and the style rank combo timers are paused while the Trickster is performing interactions with survivors or interactable objects. So that's nice. For S rank, when reaching the S rank, survivors within 44 meters of the Trickster are revealed via Killer Instinct for 4.4 seconds, and all survivors are notified across the trial. While in S rank, the Trickster gains a 44 meter terror radius, so it basically just extends to 12 meters higher than his original one did before they obviously reduced it to 24. His lullaby is disabled, which is, yeah, when that happens, it's hard to know where he is, to be honest. The laceration meters decay 50% slower. Blade throw and locker restock speeds are increased to the maximum, and the main event can be activated. So of course, your main power-up is tied to the S rank. S rank has a 66-second combo timer, where S rank cannot be paused or refreshed, unlike lower style ranks. S rank always reverts to E rank via the timer or once main event ends. A change that came with 9.5.1, which is actually a new change, is that the laceration meter decay now pauses while the Trickster is in S rank, which previously decayed normally at all times. And this includes laceration stacks applied before the Trickster achieves S rank and those received while in S rank, and the power description was updated to reflect this. Essentially, if you loop the Trickster during this 66-second period, you're cooked. Love that, you know? As if the extended laceration decay delay that was to follow in 9.5.2 wasn't bad enough for looping the rest of the time against the Trickster. Your stacks are going to remain until that rank either runs out on its own or he uses the main event, which honestly, if he does just use main event, all you have to do is hug an obstacle and he'll miss the vast majority, if not all of the blades, since it is rapid fire and can't be controlled in the same way as individual ones. So yeah, there's that. I would say just hide from him when he's in S rank, but unless you're already way out of his range, once the rank activates, it reveals everyone within a massive radius of him with Killer Instinct, even if they're out of his sight. So in that case, you can't really do anything but start running as far as you can and try to break the line of sight as much as possible. Then for the main event, they have actually updated the animations, by the way, which isn't mentioned in here. I think it looks pretty cool now. So you pull out 2 blades and you start chucking them with both hands, instead of it being that you pull the blades up with 1 hand and then start chucking them with 2 hands. So I think that's kind of nice. So press the secondary ability button to activate main event, event. The main event lasts for 10 seconds, obviously, which used to be 8 seconds. And the main event movement speed is set at 3.92 meters per second. The Trickster throws blades at, okay, I've just made a bit of a typo there. The Trickster throws blades at a 1.67 times the default blade throw speed. It says, no, this is not affected by consecutive blade throw and style rank blade throw modifiers, and survivors near the Trickster are notified. While performing the main event, the S rank timer is paused. Each blade hitting survivors awards bonus style points, and the Trickster can cancel main event via the secondary ability button. When main event ends, the Trickster's power goes on cooldown for 4 seconds, and the S rank resets to E rank. The Trickster goes up in style ranks over time based on bonus style points earned during main event. So he's very powerful now, as you can see. Yeah, overall, I think it's a really nice rework. I think it adds a lot more personality to the Trickster, and it just feels more engaging overall. Like, I feel like the old one was very boring. Now, just depending on the map size and maybe a few other variables, like if the survivors know how to play against you and they decide to cut line of sight a lot and keep their distance from you. Other than that, this has made him a lot better. It's made him more interesting and fun to play as. Like, I really did enjoy playing as him, at least. Against him, that's a bit different, but I can't really complain with this rework. Some people might have preferred the simplicity of his old power, but I think it desperately needed changing, to be honest. Moving on now to his add-ons. So the Memento blades were reworked. So this used to increase the throw rate of blades by 10% in the past, but it now displays a reticle while aiming with the blades. I personally agree with everyone else that this shouldn't be an add-on ability, and this goes for the nurse as well, with having the crosshair or whatever, the little dot in the middle of your screen where you're going to teleport, and this can be applied for any other killer that has this. I think Springtrap has this as well with his Axe's throw location. I agree with the sentiment that this should be a setting that exists in the options menu, and to be honest, I don't really like the reticle. I thought that it would help me aim the blades better, but I actually find that I'm better just throwing them, going off a prediction. Anyway, moving on to Trick Pouch. In 9.5.0, they increased the maximum carried blades by 4, and you'd start the trial with 4 extra blades, which with the old version of Trickster used to do the same thing. This was then increased to 8 blades, so double in the 9.5.2 update, which I think is a bit more appropriate. I think an extra 4 isn't very many to make it feel worth putting on this add-on, so at least they've made it a bit more reasonable there. Then for the killing part chords. So for the old Trickster, this would increase your movement speed in the throw state by plus 0.04 meters per second. They then reworked this in 9.5.0 so that it would increase the time before the style ranks from D to A decay by 20%. With 9.5.2 though, this now increases the time by 50%. Then for Inferno Wires, so for the old Trickster, this used to extend the duration of main event by 40%. This was then reworked in 9.5.0 to decrease the showstopper's cooldown after main event by 44%. But in 9.5.2, they reworked this again, so it now increases the style rank timer of S rank by 20%, which to me, I feel like seems like a more interesting add-on function, to be honest. Like, apparently there's only a 4-second cooldown after coming out of the main event before you can start throwing your blades again, so having it be reduced by 44% only took it down to 2.24 seconds, and I don't feel like that time is really hard to weigh out. Like, it's a very short duration after doing the main event, so it didn't really seem like it had a particularly useful effect before. Then for G-Wound's Autograph, which has been reworked as well, it now increases the duration of main event by 44%. For the old Trickster, this used to increase the time before a combo ends during main event by 10%. For the Lucky Blade, so in the past, this used to increase the duration of main event by 0.3 seconds for each successful blade hit. They then reworked this in 9.5.0 so that on every 8th blade hit, an additional bonus is assigned at random, where it increases the throw speed by 8% for 8 seconds, or gain 3% haste for 3 seconds, or gain an additional style point. This was altered though in 9.5.2 as well, so now one of the random additional bonuses can be that it increases the throw speed by 5% for 5 seconds instead of 8% for 8 seconds, and you can now gain 3% haste for 6 seconds rather than 3 seconds, so you get that for longer, which is really nice. Then for Caged Heart Shoes, which was reworked, when you basic break pallets and breakable walls or damage generators the next time you enter the throw state, it increases your movement speed while in the throw state by 5% for 10 seconds. This in the past used to increase your movement speed whilst in the throw state by 2.5%. Guys, for some reason I had to go on a wild search trying to look for the information to back this up, because for some reason the the DBD wiki and the patch notes website were trying to gaslight me into thinking that the movement speed with this add-on was plus 0.1 meters per second, which hasn't been the case since 4.6.1. And I knew without a shred of a doubt that the Cage Heart shoes did 2.5% in the last even year or so. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Those websites are supposed to be up to date. I even found images on the internet that were quite literally proving the fact that this used to be 2.5. I went through every single patch note, guys, up until present, and I couldn't find anywhere mentioning that, so I'm not sure why that's a secret change that they did somewhere down the line. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. So you are getting double now what you used to get in percentage value, but it does last less time, and it does require having to break pallets or damage generators in order to get the value, which, I mean, you are going to be doing those tasks pretty frequently throughout the game, so it's not a huge deal. But the older value was better, in my opinion, just because it was an overall thing that never went away. With the current base blade throw movement speed being 3.86, with this add-on, 5% translates to 0.193 meters per second increase, which would make the overall speed 4.053, whilst before 2.5% of 3.86 is 0.0965 meters per second. Added on to the original value, that takes it up to 3.9565. So it's not like the old value was a long way off from the current one, because percentage values are a lot different than meters per second values. Percentages are pretty minuscule, all things considered, so I honestly would have preferred to just stick with the older one, even if it was slightly less. Then for the Tequila Moonrock, for the old Trickster, this would increase the duration of main event by 60%. This was then reworked in 9.5.0 so that it would increase the throw speed by 15% for 10 seconds after gaining a style rank. This was decreased though in 9.5.2, unfortunately, so that now it only increases the throw speed by 8% for 10 seconds after gaining a style rank. And for the Bloody Boa, for the old Trickster, this would increase the number of blades carried by 8. This was then reworked in 9.5.0 so that it decreased the speed at which laceration decayed by 25%. But now with 9.5.2, this does decrease the speed at which laceration decays by 75%. So they gave that a whopping 50% buff, which is really crazy. So that definitely makes the add-on a lot more worth using. This used to be really ass in the PTB. They made it a bit better, but I think now this seems like one that could even have its rarity upped. It being uncommon means it's easier to access, but in my opinion, I think this should be rare at the very least. Now it will take 7.7 seconds for the stacks to decay, which is very slow actually for the survivors. And like I say, on top of the actual decay delay already being really long, I feel like this is just going to make it even more hard for the survivors to actually get rid of the laceration. And I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a very commonly picked add-on for the Trickster. And for on-target single, for the old Trickster, this used to increase the decay delay of the laceration meter by 2 seconds. This was then reworked in 9.5.0 so that it would increase the time before laceration started decaying by 30%, bringing up the, at the time, 12-second laceration decay delay time to 15.6 seconds, essentially reverting it to the previous 15-second time from the old Trickster, but slightly better. This was reworked again, though, in 9.5.2, so now it instead increases the duration of main event by 0.5 seconds for each blade hit while in S rank, up to a maximum of 20 seconds. And obviously the reason that they changed this is because they implemented the base update for the laceration meter decay time to be 16, so you no longer need an add-on to actually rely on having a better laceration decay time. Having this add-on remain the same would have been absolutely cracked. If they hadn't changed this add-on, it would have brought the laceration decay time up to 20.8, which would have been absolutely ridiculous, so I'm very happy that they changed that. Then for the Fizz Spin Soda, with the old Trickster, this used to increase the time before a combo ended during main event by 15%. They then reworked this in 9.5.0 so that it increased the number of blade throws required to slow movement speed while throwing by 2. This was reworked though in 9.5.2, so now it decreases the number of blade throws required to increase your throw speed by 2. So rather than it affecting the amount of blades that it takes for your speed to be slowed, it's reducing the amount of blades it will take until you can throw faster. And for the Waiting For You watch, with the old Trickster, this used to increase the duration of main event by 0.4 seconds for each successful blade hit. They then reworked this in 9.5.0 so that survivors whose laceration meter fully decayed would be revealed for 4 seconds. This number was increased though in 9.5.2, so now survivors whose laceration meter fully decays are revealed for 10 seconds. So we've got a 6-second buff there. I was not thinking they would up it that much. I mean, 4 seconds is a pretty decent time for aura reveal, but 10 seconds, that is actually a long time to be getting auras, and especially around, you know, obstacles and buildings where you may have lost sight of them. This sounds really good now. For the Ripper Brace add-on, with the old Trickster, this used to increase the decay delay of the laceration meter by 3 seconds. They then reworked this in 9.5.0 so that for every star rank, you would basic vault windows, basic break pallets, or breakable walls and damage generators 3% faster. But now with 9.5.2, for each star rank, you basic vault windows, basic break pallets, or breakable walls and damage generators 6% faster, so they've doubled this. So from E to D rank, you would get 6%. This would then go up to 12% at C rank, 18% at B rank, 24% at A rank, and then 30% at S rank. Pair this with perks that already increase vault speed and breaking actions such as Bamboozle, Brutal Strength, Fire Up, Dark Arrogance, or Superior Anatomy, and with each rank, you're going to be incredibly fast. Maybe I could make a whole build video around that, actually. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. Then for Melodious Murder, it increases the blade reload speed at lockers by 25% now, which on the old version of Trickster would reduce the reload time at lockers by 20%. That's nice. I mean, you already have really good reload speeds at lockers anyway with up ranking, but having this on top of that would make it super fast. Then for Diamond Cufflinks, it now reveals survivors' auras for 6 seconds when their laceration reaches 1 blade hit from maximum. This was the same for the old Trickster. Then for Edge of Revival Album, which was reworked, the blade hits from more than 20 meters away deal 100% more laceration, which for the old version of Trickster, this would cause blades to shatter when hitting the environment, adding 0.5 charges to the laceration meter of nearby survivors. So this is a far better add-on by the sounds of it. Then for the Trick Blades, which was reworked, blades can ricochet off the environment once now, and on every 8th blade hit after a ricochet, an additional bonus is assigned at random, which either increases the laceration by 100%, reveals survivor auras within 12 meters for 4.4 seconds, or you gain an additional style point, which, like I said in the PTB To Live Changes, this just used to ricochet off the environment twice. So it's kind of a positive and a negative. You don't get it to ricochet as much, but you do get these extra bonuses. Then for Cut Through You Single, which was reworked, when reaching A rank, survivors within 32 meters are revealed with Killer Instinct for 4.4 seconds. I obviously already read this in the PTB To Live. On the old version of Trickster, this used to cause blades to pierce through the first survivor they hit and continue traveling, and then any second survivor hit would only receive 0.5 charges to their laceration meter. This add-on before really relied on there being survivors doing body blocks, for example. Like, the survivors would have to be lined up with each other for you to actually pull this off and get any value out of it. And if a survivor isn't body blocking, which again, it's very situational, you aren't really going to get value out of this. So I didn't really like this before. I feel like now it's actually got more use to it, and I think it's nice that it gives you the S rank ability at A rank too, albeit at a slightly reduced range of 32 meters rather than 44. Then for Death Throws Compilation, with the old Trickster, this used to reveal the auras of survivors hit during main event for 6 seconds. This was then reworked in 9.5.0 so that it refilled blades by 50% of the maximum when main event ends. But they apparently updated this in 9.5.2 to refill the blades by 75% of the maximum when main event ends now. So an additional 25% of the blades will be given back to you, which apparently means you'll be getting back 27 blades after a main event with this add-on. See, that feels more like a pink add-on type of effect. With the percentage value before, it could have easily been a purple add-on in my opinion. 18 blades was really bad. And then finally, for the Trickster, oh my god, for the iridescent photo card. Okay, so it is still called photo card. For some reason in the PTB To Live, it's listed as iridescent photo, so I guess they just shortened it there. This was also reworked, obviously, so it increases the duration of main event by 100% now, and when the main event is activated, you reveal your aura to all survivors auras are revealed, and you block all generators for 6 seconds. With the old version of Trickster, this would grant a stackable 1% haste status effect up to a maximum of 7% for each consecutive blade hit, and this effect would be lost when missing a blade or damaging a survivor. I feel like this is a way better add-on now. So yeah, there is all of the changes, guys, to the Trickster. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the new system, if you're a fan of it, or if you maybe take issue to it. I don't know. I personally, like I say, I really like the new ranking system, and from these add-on reworks, it seems that they've made a lot of them more useful. They've done some really great changes here, so hopefully the Trickster mains will shut the fuck up now and stop complaining. Moving on on to the first, or Vecna, they've decreased the second phase of the World Breaker timer from 60 seconds to 50 seconds, okay. And the killer base attack lunge speed was adjusted from 6.6 meters per second to 6.9 meters per second to be on par with all killers. See, I didn't even know that his lunge was reduced. I just assumed that it was the same as everyone else, or if not, slightly better with just the fact that he has a vine that pops out. I thought maybe that would reach out and hit the survivor and make him slightly better, if anything, but no, it seems like maybe he was reduced in his lunge, but the fact that he has a vine would make it slightly more on par with other killers in terms of like the reach that you could hit people with it. But now that they made it 6.9, I mean, I wonder if that will make him slightly better. But either way, those are slight nerf and a buff as well. So moving on to his add-ons though, for the bead maze, it now increases World Breaker timer for 2.5 seconds for each living survivor, which used to be 3 seconds apparently in 9.4.0. Then for the Shattered Wrist Rocket, they've changed the common rarity to uncommon rarity. This is the add-on where the explosion from the Undergate attack breaks pallets instantly and damages generators. Then for the Bloody Roller Skate, now Vecna gains the haste effect for 1.5 seconds upon exiting the Undergate attack, which before was 2 seconds. Then for the Mid-Century Radio, they've changed the uncommon rarity to common rarity. So in this case, they've actually made this one lower so it's more accessible. This is the add-on where survivors more than 32 meters away have their auras revealed while interacting with grandfather clocks. I'm actually surprised that they make this more common, to be honest. Then for the Forged Death Certificate, they've reworked this, I believe. So before, in 9.4.0, for each World Breaker token placed on a survivor, it would reduce your terror radius by 12 meters until the next World Breaker mode activation. Now, applying a World Breaker token on any survivor afflicts the killer with undetectable until the next World Breaker mode activation. So I think that's actually a good rework. I think having it reduced by 12 meters is really kind of pointless, especially if you're chasing them. Like, unless they're far away from you, having this reduced slightly, I don't feel like it'll have much of an effect, really. I think now with it actually making you undetectable, it then adds a lot more confusion to like where you're at. Like the survivor could like lose sight of you and then all of a sudden they have no idea where you are, and it just makes like trying to anticipate you in a loop a bit more difficult. So I feel like that makes it a more interesting add-on overall, actually. Then for the Rabbit Remains, they've changed the rarity to very rare, and it now gives exhausted status effect for 10 seconds and increases the upside down ability cooldown by 5 seconds. This used to apply exhausted to survivors standing in or entering the area of effect range, and for 20 seconds after they left the range. So once they've actually left the Undergate attack range, they aren't going to be exhausted for as long, and you also get an increased cooldown by 5 seconds, which has, you know, added a downside to it. But I think the reason they've upped the rarity here is because clearly exhausted for 10 seconds is quite good, especially because it just completely cuts off their ability to use exhaustion perks like Dead Hard, like DS, stuff like that. And so they wanted to make it a bit harder to access in the Blood Web. Then for the Broken Skateboard, they've reworked this as well so that when the World Breaker mode starts, you basic vault windows 30% faster and the auras of pallets and windows are revealed to you within 32 meters for the next 65 seconds, which before, upon activating World Breaker, it would increase your vaulting speed by 30% for 60 seconds. So you're getting the same percentage as before, but you're getting it for 5 seconds longer, and it also reveals the auras of pallets and windows now as well, which is nice. For the Pizza Goggles, they've changed the very rare rarity to rare rarity, and they've reworked it so that the Undergate attack's area of effect range is reduced by 90% and its cooldown time is shortened by 25 seconds, and your exit cooldown time after executing the Undergate attack is reduced by 80%. This before would reduce the cooldown by 20 seconds instead of 25, so it's 5 seconds better now. And before, the attack radius was decreased by 90%, which is the same here, but the fact that it took such a massive hit to the Undergate attack size, it made the add-on not really feel worth using because it's such a massive decrease, and I feel like you really need a big radius to really have a chance of hitting anybody with Undergate. So even though it's still bad in that regard, you do get an upside now to balance it out a little bit more. And with this, I guess they made it blue so that it's not as hard to access. And finally, for Vecna, Vecna. For the chest piece, they've removed the negative aspect of increasing the upside down ability cooldown, and the 2 charges attack radius are now diminished by 40%. And apparently the negative downside that they removed that was in 9.4.0 is that it would increase the cooldown of the upside down ability by 15 seconds, which it no longer does. Okay, moving on to the Ghoul. So they adjusted the reticle stickiness on survivors from 0.18 to 0.05 seconds when attempting a Cocoon grab. So yeah, they drastically reduced that. So it will require a bit more of you actually having to turn it yourself and actually hit the button rather than it kind of locking on as well. A lot of people really hate the Ghoul. I can totally understand that because really the only counterplay is just hiding from him. And it does feel like the reticle does latch on to people quite well. So I can see why they decreased that slightly. And the killer can no longer automatically damages. These guys can't spell, I swear to God. It can no longer automatically damage nearby survivors following a leap vault, which is actually something I noticed, I think, when I was playing as the Ghoul. I remember like when I would go over a pallet and it would immediately injure them. I was like, what the fuck? That's kind of crazy. I mean, I really liked that personally, but I can see why that would be unfair for the survivors because really all it should be doing is making you vault the pallet the same way you would if you were playing Wesker. It shouldn't, you know, immediately injure them on the other side of it. But I did really like that because there's maybe 2 or 3 times I actually ever pulled that off. It really helped me out because some people in loops are really annoying. Moving on to killer actions update. So they did do a bunch of changes to descriptions and stuff like that. And they also added specifics around like vaults and breaks and stuff like I mentioned earlier in the video, which I said I'd get to. So accompanying the new language found in the Perk's description update, see below in brackets, we have expanded our distinction between basic and special actions performed by killers. Starting in update 9.5.0, the following terms will now appear in power, add-on, and perk descriptions. So there's basic break, so that's when a pallet or breakable wall is broken by the default ability of any killer. And then there's a special break when a downed pallet or breakable wall is broken due to an ability granted by a killer's power. You then have basic vault, so when a window is vaulted by the default ability of any killer. And then special vault when a window or downed pallet is vaulted due to an ability granted by a killer's power, such as the Cocoon Leap, like we just mentioned, or Vecna's Virulent Bound. And for damaging generators, that is when a generator is damaged and loses progress due to the default ability of any killer. And then there's generator explosions, so when a generator loses progress due to an ability granted by a killer's power or perk. And it says, with these new terms, we intend to express with increased accuracy when specific gameplay interactions are intended to work alongside one another, notably killer powers and killer perks. What the fuck? Multiple gameplay descriptions full stop. Okay, have been updated to surface these new interactions. The following killer's power descriptions have been updated. So basic break has been added to the singularity. For special break, they've added that for the shape, the hillbilly, the cannibal, the demogorgon, the oni, the blight, the nemesis, the knight, and the dark lord. And then for special vault, they've altered this for the power descriptions of the legion, the mastermind, the good guy, the ghoul, and the Cresu. The following killer add-on descriptions have been updated as well. So the wraiths, the serpent soot, the wraiths shadow dance white, the wraiths shadow dance blood, the hillbillies low pro chains, the spirits kintsugi teacup, the legion's iridescent button, the ghostface Olsen's wallet, the demogorgon's barb's glasses, the executioner's obsidian goblet, the mastermind's lab photo, the knight's pillaged mead, the skull merchant's geographical readout, the xenomorph's self-destruct bolt, the good guy's hard hat, the lich's ring of telekinesis and vorpal sword, the dark lord's pocket watch and sylph feather, the Houndmaster's gunpowder tin, the Ghoul's CCG ID card, red-headed centipede and iridescent eye patch, the animatronics endo CPU, the Cresu's rotten swine and mysterious elixir, and the first or Vecna's shattered wrist rocket, stained glass mural, broken skateboard, and electroshock collar. Oh my god, there was a lot to read there. And the following killer perk descriptions have been updated. So brutal strength, overcharge, fire up, bamboozle, pop goes the weasel, spirit fury, which in brackets now destroys pallets. Okay. Surge, Trail of Torment, Dragon's Grip, Oppression, Eruption, Scourge Hook, Pain Resonance, Fall of Brine, Dissolution, which now destroys pallets as well, Superior Anatomy, Nowhere to Hide, Gamerfoot, Thwack, Machine Learning, Unbound, Unforeseen, Undone, Dark Arrogance, Help Wanted, Turn Back the Clock, and Hex, Hive Mind. And then the following survivor perk descriptions have been updated: Alert, Blast Mine, Wiretap, Chemical Trap, and Bada Bada Boom. I think that's nice that they've specified that there because obviously a break pallet or a damage generator could allude to anything anything, and I think it's good that they've separated those two things as different interactions or abilities. Moving on to Survivor item update, they did adjust the fog vials again. They are a bit better than they were before, which I'll give them credit for. I think that's good that they've done that. I still do think that the overall fog within the radius should be thicker. It's good that outside of that radius, the killer can't really see into it now. But the actual fog, which I guess it's fog, right? Fog isn't actually that thick, especially when you're inside of it. It's more of a distance-based thing in real life, so at least it's accurate to reality. But I do think that the fog was much nicer when it first dropped, even though it did throw off a lot of killers and you couldn't really see through it very well. I preferred that it was quite thick. I wish that they could find a middle ground and just make it more like the old one, but sort of an in-between of the values, you know, with what it currently is, because I think the fog vials are just shit. If you're literally in the radius when the survivor activates it, you can still see them perfectly well, so it just seems kind of pointless in my opinion even having it. But nonetheless, they reworked the fog cloud visual effect and rendering method, so opacity inside and outside its bounds is now consistent across all realms. It always is fully opaque when seen from the outside, and it adapts to each realm's unique lighting and color. The following essential auras are now always displayed through the fog cloud, so when a survivor is downed or when a survivor is hooked. And they've increased the number of charges to 4 from 2 for the following items, so the Apprentice's fog vial, the Artisan's fog vial, and the Vigo's fog vial, which I believe is all of them. So yeah, they all have more charges now, which is also great. That was one of the other things I really didn't like about the fog vials before, is that they dramatically reduced the charges. It used to be infinite, which was kind of crazy, and then they made it 2, so you could only get very, very minimal uses in the game. And I feel like with how thin the fog is inside of it, there should be more charges. It just makes sense. People bring those into the game, and to only have 2 of them, and with how shit they were, it really was not worth running them. So at least now, with them being thicker from the outside, and the fact that you get more uses out of them, I think that makes them a bit better. But again, I would still prefer if they increase the opacity inside of them just a tiny bit. Anyway, for the fog vial add-ons, for the potent extract visceral, I swear this is the one that always changing for some reason. They've increased the fog cloud, increased opacity bonus to 100%, which was 5%. Wait a minute. Note, the increased bonus opacity is relative to the new fog cloud visual effect. Okay. Wait, so they actually did increase the opacity, but only with this add-on, so the base one won't do that. Okay, well, that's now my new favorite add-on for sure. I'm definitely going to run that. I mean, I never actually bring fog vials into the game, guys. I'm going to be honest. Like, I would rather use a flashlight or in secondary cases use a toolbox to sabotage, but at least maybe now if I ever do use them, I have this add-on there to make the fog clouds actually good, you know, inside the radius. Thank God they actually did that. Okay, moving on now to Survivor perk updates. So for Better Together, Plot Twist can no longer force this perk's effect to activate out of the survivor's control. So I guess what would happen is that if somebody used Plot Twist on the map, instead of them being downed by the killer, it would force this perk to activate, and thus it would reveal the auras of all of the survivors to you, which I don't see why that would be a bad thing. I mean, if anything, that means that the person running the perk is going to get more value out of it than they normally would, because this perk doesn't actually have a cooldown. But anyway, they have changed that just so that it doesn't trick this perk into activating. Then for Fast Track, this has been reworked, so whenever another survivor is hooked, you earn 1, 2, or 3 tokens, up to 9, and then while repairing, whenever you hit a great basic skill check, spend all tokens, and then for each token spent, the generator gains 2 permanent charges. So apparently before, this would give you up to a maximum of 9, 18, or 27 tokens, and it would only increase the bonus progression awarded for succeeding a skill check by a stackable 1%. Now you can get less maximum tokens, but these tokens do grant 2% permanent progress, which essentially means that instead of it slightly increasing the amount of progression you get for hitting skill checks, it's taking off progress off the end of the gen. And since you're getting 2 permanent charges for each token, and you can get up to 9 in total, that's taking off 18% at the maximum amount, which is crazy. That's like a whole 1/5 of the progress meter taken off. And I haven't actually used this perk yet, but a lot of people have been complaining about this, and I can totally see why, because all you have to do is just wait for the killer to hook people, and you can speed up the gen process by quite a lot. So this is great for survivors, obviously, but I don't know what they're going to do with this. Maybe they could reduce this down to 1 permanent charge for each token so that it's not as strong. But yeah, moving on to self-preservation. This also was reworked, so now whenever another survivor is hooked, you gain elusive for 20, 25, or 30 seconds. The icon as well has been updated to reflect this change. This previously would suppress your grunts of pain and prevent the creation of pools of blood and scratch marks for 6, 8, or 10 seconds whenever a survivor within 16 meters of your location was hit by a basic or special attack, which was a decent effect, to be honest, but I feel like this perk didn't doesn't really get run very often by people, so I could see why they would update this. And also, the new elusive status effect does cover all three of these effects that the perk used to do, plus the blockage of aura reading as well, which I guess this perk now does, which is pretty cool. So it only makes sense that they would alter the description so that it's all covered under this one label. And they also extended the duration that you get this for, so that's really nice. So obviously you will get this value less often because before it applied to basic or special attacks, which are a much more frequent thing that happens throughout the game compared to people being hooked. So it will activate less often, but you do get the effect duration for longer to make up for that. And then for Unbreakable, once per trial while downed by the killer, you can fully recover. While downed, you recover 25, 30, or 35% faster. And it says, note, now only grants the survivor the ability to recover when the killer was specifically responsible for them entering the downed state. So if you did go down, say from using Plot Twist, or, which I mean, Plot Twist, you can pick yourself up fully anyway, but let's see if you got downed by using Conviction, because after 30 seconds of being broken, you'd automatically go down. You could then use Unbreakable to fully pick yourself up. Now it's locked to only when the killer's downed you, which is kind of shit. I mean, I really actually liked using Conviction and Unbreakable. I thought that was a really good perk combo, but you can't do that anymore. So that really kind of sucks. So moving on now to killer perk updates. For Forced Hesitation, Plot Twist can no longer force this perk's effect to activate out of the killer's control. So this seems to be a mirror problem from the survivor side with Better Together. So Forced Hesitation is the singularity perk where whenever a survivor is put into the dying state by any means, all other survivors within 16 meters of them suffer from a 20% hindered status effect for 10 seconds, and it would have a cooldown of 40, 35, or 30 seconds. So in this case, unlike the survivor side, it's actually more of a problem that Plot Twist could activate this, because if a survivor went down not by your own volition, right, they just went down because they used that perk, that would then use the perk against your own will, meaning that all of the survivors would suffer from the 20% hindered, which is nice, I guess, but it would also put this perk into a cooldown without you actually wanting it to necessarily, which then means that the next time you do actually down someone yourself in that 30 to 40 second window, you can't even get the value out of it. And then for Genetic Limits, they've updated it to apply the exhausted status effect simultaneously when the health state loss is recognized on survivors, not afterwards. For Hex Crowd Control, they've reworked this, so the first time a survivor medium or fast vaults a window, a dull totem ignites. The last 4, 5, or 6 windows survivors medium or fast vault are blocked, and you basic vault blocked windows 15% faster, and you see the auras of blocked windows within 24 meters. So before, whenever a survivor performed a rushed action to vault a window, it would trigger the perk's effect. So I guess now they've specifically put that if they medium or fast vault, and it used to block the last 3, 4, or 5 windows for survivors, now it blocks one more window than it did before, as well as also giving you the auras of which windows are blocked and be able to vault them faster, which is basically just like the ability that you get from Bamboozle. I actually feel like they've made that a lot better now, actually. I never really used Hex Crowd Control. I mainly just used Bamboozle because at least that's a controlled thing. You choose which window you want to block when you vault over it in a chase. This is also really good because in the past, it would activate the Hex Totem from the start of the game, which if a survivor found that really early on, they could cleanse it before you even get anything out of it, which is really bad. So now at least it actually activates upon a survivor doing a rush vault. Moving on to Pop Goes the Weasel. Whenever you hook a survivor for the next 35, 40, or 45 seconds, when you damage a generator, it explodes and loses 15% more progress, which was 20% of current progress before, now total progress only. Essentially meaning now that regardless of what the progress amount is on a generator, it will remove a flat 15%. 20% current progress could be, say, if the gen is nearly finished. 20% of the overall gen progress being taken off would be a lot. While say if you've barely even started on a generator and it takes off 20% of that progress, it would be very minuscule. So even though the percentage appears lower, it is actually a better change. And for Terminus, finally, they've updated it to trigger earlier when generators are completed to block healing abilities of survivors occurring simultaneously. Which basically what this is saying is that survivors who are injured would become broken in the end game, and if a survivor started healing just as last gen's about to pop, it wouldn't interrupt the animation, and they'd basically get to continue healing and not suffer the broken status effect, which I suppose maybe survivors could actually time when they start healing or choose to do a heal just as their teammates are about to do the last generator to avoid Terminus. This would have to be a precautionary thing though that you do, assuming that the killer may have this perk, because you obviously can't know whether the killer has Terminus or not until it activates. But I guess it's just removed that ability now, so survivors, if they just start healing and one of their teammates does the last generator, it will just cut their healing animation in half. Their teammate won't be able to finish it, and they'll be afflicted with broken. Moving on to features now for perk description updates. For all survivor and killer perk descriptions in the game, they have been updated and revised with simplified and consistent language. Aside from perk updates above, perk gameplay has not changed across the board. Their goals were the following: to shorten text and character usage, ease player understanding, reset perk language for easier future maintenance. And to help achieve this, they've added expanding tooltips in the user interface, so the status effects can now be expanded separately to display reminders, which is basically in like an extra info area. Status effects each feature unique color labels, flagging them as positive or negative, which is, I actually didn't know that when I was in the PTB. I just saw that there was this greeny blue color for elusive, but I guess that represents positive. Hindered, for example, would be red. And then key bindings associated with a perk's activated effect are now displayed within a perk's text description. And some examples are dead hard, come and get me, dramaturgy, etc. So it will literally now say in the perk description, you have to click this button based on the console you're on to activate the perk, which I think is good, because before it would just say hit the active ability button 1 or 2 or something, which isn't immediately obvious to people. So I feel like the fact that it switches depending on whatever input you have in, I think that's great. I'm glad that they've added that. That makes things a lot more obvious to people, especially new survivors who don't know which buttons do what. And I think that the fact that they've made the descriptions more simplified is so much nicer to look at, guys. Honestly, one of the things I've really had an issue with the longest time in this game is that when you're reading the perk descriptions and what have you, it just seemed like a clusterfuck. There's just all this information going on, and that's not even considering the quotes and stuff that get lumped at the bottom. So it would just have this massive description of what the perk does to activate it and how long it's active for and when it goes on cooldown. All of the status effects of what that perk may include in it listed beneath it, and then you'd have a quote at the bottom. So it was just this row of information, and I think it's just nice now that you've got the quote there, but it's kind of tiny and it's in like a slightly lighter, I think, or more faded text. And then the main information is more bold, or it's just more, you know, clear. It's been shortened, it's not as complicated. And if you want to know what the status effects mean, you can pull up that extra tab and it will explain it to you. I think that's so much nicer, so it's so good that they've added that finally. Moving on to auras customization. This is another thing which people have been, I guess, asking for. This is in addition to the scratch marks update that they did last patch. Now you can change the color of auras. I did go over this in my PTB video if you haven't already watched that. But yeah, players can now customize some auras colors on beta tab, so you can switch the color of survivor auras, killer auras, hooked or dying survivor auras, normal hooks, so I guess not scourges, they will remain white obviously, generators, palettes, windows, and it says store. Players can use a clear all button to remove active notifications. I wasn't really asking myself for aura customization. I didn't really care about the color of scratch marks, to be honest, but I do think it's nice that people can add a bit more customization, right? And especially people who maybe can't see scratch marks or can't see auras as well. Maybe like they find the red to be not as good on certain maps, or they just don't like the color of it. They can just play around with it now and find that sweet spot. And then finally guys, for the update, because this has been going on for ages, but the final change we have is the new prestige menu and reward system, which I also did cover in the PTB. They've added a new way to track and view your rewards when prestiging your character. Simply clicking on your character's prestige level will let you access and track your progress. There's new rewards given at prestige 25, 50, 75, and 100 per character. It gives you a badge of the actual killer or survivor at 25, and then at 50, 75, and 100, it adds like upgraded spider leg frames to the badge, and these vary, I think, from like a silvery color to a gold, and then to like an iridescent color. And I think you might be able to access these from the badge area too, if I'm not mistaken. It's good that they've added prestige rewards for those milestones. Although, like I said in the PTB video, badges are only seen during the end game, so it's kind of a bit of an L really, because at least with cosmetics like the charms and the bloody cosmetics, you see them for the entire game. But hey, it's rewards regardless. At least they've finally done something for people who have prestige that high. So yeah, that is all the changes we got in this update. That was a hell of a long video, so I really apologize in post if this video is extremely long still. I will try and cut this down as best as possible. But for those of you that stuck around and are still here now at the end of the video, thank you so much. You guys are real ones. If you did make it to the end of the video, I guess, and you don't know what to comment, then be sure to drop a microphone emoji for the Trickster chapter. Be sure to let me know down in the comments, guys, what you all thought thought of these changes. I have to say, as a whole, this was a really good update. I think there's a lot of amazing changes in here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or if you found it informative, be sure to smash the like button down below to let me know. Really helps the video out in the algorithm. Also, hit the hype button next to it. That really helps push smaller creators like me out to more people. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. And if you want to see more videos from me, don't forget to click the subscribe button and turn on post notifications next to it so you never miss a single video of mine. And I shall catch you all very soon with a brand new video. Goodbye.